Hi guys, I'm Kasia. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times where we discuss movies and horror. And today I'm here to talk to you spoiler free about To Catch a Killer.
It's coffee time!
Obviously, I was interested in this movie release because it is about a crime and catching a murderer. And you guys know I love true crime stories, so I was excited to check this one out. As always, I'm going to talk about the movie spoiler free and give you my rating, so let's get to it. To Catch a Killer is a 2023 American crime thriller directed by Damian Szifron. It stars Shailene Woodley and Ben Mendelsohn, and it was just released in April 2023. A troubled police officer is recruited by the FBI's chief investigator to help profile and track down a disturbed individual terrorizing Baltimore, Maryland. The movie starts on New Year's Eve, and we have an anonymous shooter that kills 29 people at random that single night. So the police have a lot of work to do just to kickstart the new year. Lamarck, who is the chief investigator from the FBI, gives a speech to the police department to let them know that this man is just a regular person that has been trained to do this and they're gonna get him. Among the cops listening is Eleanor, who is a young cop that has a troubled past, and she's really involved in this case because she was there at the time that it happened and she was involved that night investigating the kills. So Lamarck and Eleanor are gonna have to team up to try to fight corruption and try to get to the bottom of things and actually get to the killer before he kills again. The movie is trying to criticize a lot of things like politicians, the FBI, the police, the media, like too many things. So I felt like at some point they were trying to bite more than they could chew with this film. Lamarck, who is our chief officer from the FBI, feels a little bit stereotypical, like he fits the mold perfectly of this type of character. There is nothing to him that it is super like unique, but also they're giving him these speeches that are meant to be like really deep and intense, and at the beginning it kind of works, but it also gets boring at some point. Eleanor is kind of this troubled character, kind of like more morally gray one, that the viewer still doesn't know where to place her at the beginning. But I feel like Shailene Woodley lacks a little bit of depth in her performance, especially towards the end where things get really heated up. So I feel like I didn't buy her performance, especially on that third act. And they try really hard to paint her as a loner. You see her going to swim by herself, you see her walking home alone, you see her opening her apartment and it's always her and her cat and that's it. But they don't really give her a personality, a proper like character background. So it feels like they're letting us know what we're supposed to think of her. You're supposed to think that she's a loner, that she has troubles, that she has secrets, but they're not really giving us much information about her past to really flesh her out as a character, because she's supposed to be one of the most important characters of this film. And I feel like with both characters, they just gave us stereotypes and tropes and things that we should assume and think about them, but they didn't really give them a personality. The director and cinematographer Javier Julia created an imagery that is stylish and well lit, but however their work was a little bit hampered by all of these plotting and undeveloped characters. And apart from the dialogue not being the best, I felt like at times the lines were not that great. I feel like for me what bothers me the most is that we have the trope of a killer that's portrayed as someone whose like system has failed him, that he's struggling with some mental illness, and just because the system failed him, that's why he's doing what he's doing. That's kind of like how it's being portrayed from the very beginning of the film, so it's not really a spoiler. That's how they assume this killer is from the very beginning of the film, which is something else that bothered me a little bit from the very beginning of the film. When you know someone someone has shot 29 people. When the police department are talking about catching the killer, they keep saying he, him, and they assume that it's a man. Why would you assume that? Like, if you're the police, aren't you supposed to assume that your suspect could be anybody unless you have any sort of proof at all of the type of person that you're dealing with? Of course, you can kind of try to go a little bit into the psyche of who could potentially do something like this, but why assume from the get-go that it's a man? And also there's a scene where I think they show a little bit too much of this killer quite early on. So I felt like the expectation, you know, the tension they could have built up to the killer was somehow spoiled by all of this. And that's where we come to the thriller aspects of this film, because obviously this is not a horror movie, it is a crime thriller. But as I was just explaining, I feel like the way that they approached the killer already killed the tension, and it didn't allow you, you know, to get this build up and this expectation and excitement to see who could be the killer, try to figure out who he was and all of these things. They did like an interview sequence at the beginning, and I was thinking, amazing, they're gonna give us interviews of suspects and we're gonna have to figure out who's the killer. But no, that was not really the case. And I just felt like they didn't have enough tension for a thriller. They also didn't have enough twists and turns to the story that were actually shocking and surprising. So I saw this more of a movie, kind of like a TV crime thriller. It didn't offer me as much as I was expecting. I feel like with the colors and the way they were filming the movie, they wanted to do something similar to the Zodiac Killer. They were going for that kind of true crime vibe, but it didn't really succeed in the end. At the end of the day, I ended up giving this film a 2.5 out of 5, which still means that I would give it a watch if I were you. Just for a one-time watch, especially if you love true crime documentaries and crime thrillers and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the film was lacking when it comes to the script, and I felt like they were trying to overdo it with some of the plotting that they were trying to do in the film, and it ended up backfiring. I felt like the movie started really well. Like, the movie started with a bang, it started strong, and then it just started to get progressively less and less interesting. But I will praise them because they were trying to do a more modern approach to a true crime story, kind of like a modern version of the Zodiac Killer. So I will praise them for that, and I did enjoy watching it for what it was. So, you know, if you have access to it, give it a watch, especially if you love, like I said, true crime documentaries. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed my spoiler-free review. Let me know down below if you have watched the movie and what you thought of it. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!